I love, just not you. Those 5 words shattered Maya's entire world. Adrian Hale, the man who built skyscrapers yet couldn't build a heart, said them without flinching. She walked away that night, her heart heavy, and a secret growing inside her. A year later, fate laughed in silence. In the middle of a charity event, flashes of cameras and luxury lights surrounded Adrian until his world froze. Standing near the exit, wearing a soft pastel dress, Maya appeared, holding 2 tiny girls in her arms, their eyes identical to his. Adrian's breath caught. The crowd disappeared. He had everything money could buy. Yet in that moment, he realized what he'd truly lost. The man who once said he couldn't love was about to learn what heartbreak really meant. Rain fell like broken glass against the windows of the Hale Empire penthouse. The city glittered below, a world Adrian Hale ruled contracts, mergers, and deals. But tonight, Maya Lewis stood in his office, her voice trembling as she asked the one question she'd been avoiding for months. Do you love me, Adrian? He didn't look up from the file in his hand. His jaw was tight, his tone steady, too steady. I love, just not you, Maya. The silence after was unbearable. The sound of rain, her quiet gasp, and the hum of the city filled the room. You don't mean that, she whispered, stepping closer. Adrian finally looked up, his eyes sharp, cold, the kind that had forgotten how to feel. I built my life on control, Maya. Love is chaos. I don't need it. Her heart cracked, but she didn't beg, she simply nodded, the weight of his words pressing against her chest. Then I hope one day, you realize what you've lost. She walked out, not knowing she carried a heartbeat that would one day change his world. Weeks turned into months. Maya left the city, taking refuge in a small coastal town, a place where nobody knew the name, Adrian Hale. She worked quietly, saving every penny, her belly growing, her hope flickering between fear and love. One stormy night, her twins arrived to Little Miracles with the same gray-blue eyes as their father. She named them Leah and Luna, whispering promises into their tiny ears. Meanwhile, in his glass tower, Adrian's empire grew. Awards, headlines, and numbers. Everything looked perfect, except for the nights he couldn't sleep. He never spoke of Maya again, but sometimes, in boardroom silence, her laughter echoed in his mind. And on the anniversary of her leaving, he stood by the window, staring into the rain again, unaware that just a few hours away, the woman he once broke was teaching his daughters to smile. The Hale Foundation charity gala sparkled with wealth, fame, and carefully rehearsed smiles. Crystal chandeliers painted golden light across marble floors. Reporters crowded the red carpet, waiting for one glimpse of the billionaire who never smiled for the cameras. Adrian Hale arrived late. As always, black tuxedo, sharp gaze, and an aura that kept people at a distance. The crowd whispered his name like a legend. He nodded politely, answered questions with rehearsed confidence, and slipped into the grand hall. Tonight's event was just another business obligation to him until a small laugh drifted from the corner of the room, a sound so soft, yet so familiar that it made his heart stop. He turned and time stilled. Across the hall stood Maya Lewis. Her hair was tied in a simple braid, her dress soft blue that shimmered under the lights. She wasn't the same woman, he remembered. There was a quiet strength in her now. But what truly made his breath catch were the 2 tiny girls standing beside her, clutching her hands tightly. Twin ribbons, twin eyes, his eyes. For a second, Adrian thought he was dreaming. He blinked again, but the image didn't vanish. He felt his heartbeat, something he hadn't felt in a long time, pounding like thunder beneath his ribs. Maya, he whispered under his breath. She saw him. Their eyes met across the crowd. The noise around them faded. No music, no chatter. Just that one silent stare, heavy with everything left unsaid. Maya's breath caught, her throat dry. She hadn't planned this. She wasn't even supposed to be here. Her friend, a nurse, had begged her to attend, never mentioning who the event's sponsor was. And now, there he was. Adrian Hale, the man she had tried to forget. The man whose daughters now tugged at her dress, asking for juice. He took a hesitant step forward. People turned to watch. It wasn't every day the cold billionaire froze mid-conversation, eyes locked on someone. Adrian. Someone called a business partner, but he didn't hear. When he finally reached her, he realized his palms were trembling. The last time he'd stood this close, he had destroyed her. Maya, he breathed. It's really you. She nodded faintly, holding her daughters close. It's me. His gaze drifted down. The girls stared at him with identical curiosity, one hiding behind Maya's leg, the other tilting her head. Are they? His voice broke before he could finish. She didn't answer immediately. "They're mine," she said softly. Then, after a pause, "Ours." The word hit him harder than any deal gone wrong, harder than any loss. His vision blurred for a moment, emotion burning behind his eyes. They moved to a quiet balcony, away from the flashing cameras. The city lights shimmered below them. "I looked for you," Adrian said, his voice rough. "I went back to your apartment. You were gone." "I had to leave," Maya whispered, rocking one of the twins gently. "You made your choice, Adrian. You told me love was chaos." His jaw tightened. "I was wrong." She looked at him, searching for truth in his eyes, afraid to believe it. "You can't just show up a year later and say that," she said, her voice trembling. "Do you know what it was like? Raising them alone, hiding them because I couldn't let your world swallow them." He stepped closer, his tone pleading now. "Maya, please." "I didn't know," she cut him off, her eyes flashing. "You didn't want to know." That silence hung between them, sharp, raw, and filled with everything neither of them had said when they should have. A small hand tugged at his sleeve. Leah, the braver twin, looked up at him, wide-eyed. "Are you my daddy?" The words froze him. Maya gasped softly, eyes filling. Adrian knelt slowly, his throat tight. I think I am." Leah smiled, innocent and bright. "You look like me," she said proudly. He let out a shaky laugh, tears threatening to spill. "I guess I do." Luna, the quieter one, clung to Maya's shoulder, hiding her face. Adrian glanced at her gently. "And you must be Luna." The little girl peeked out, then giggled. "Mommy says we don't talk to strangers." "I guess I'll have to stop being one, then," he said softly. Maya turned away, biting her lip, torn between anger and the old, familiar ache in her chest. That night, after the event ended, Adrian offered to drive them home. Maya refused. "I've done this alone for a year. I don't need your pity," she said. "It's not pity," he said quietly. "It's regret." She hesitated, her hand tightening around the stroller. "Regret doesn't fix what you broke." "No," he admitted, "but maybe it can build something new." For the first time, she saw it, not the ruthless CEO, not the man who threw love away, but someone stripped bare, raw, and painfully human. Still, her heart didn't trust easily anymore. "Good night, Adrian," she whispered as she walked away, the twins waving back. Adrian stood motionless, staring after the only family he'd ever truly wanted. And for the first time in years, the billionaire who once had everything felt completely empty. That night, in his penthouse, he didn't sleep. The rain started again, just like the night he lost her. He sat by the window, watching droplets race down the glass, wondering if she'd ever forgive him. In the silence, he whispered the words he'd never said aloud before. "I love you, Maya, and I always did." But she couldn't hear him, not yet. The next morning, sunlight poured through the tall glass windows of Hale Tower. Adrian Hale stood at the edge of his office. But for once, he wasn't staring at city skylines or profit charts. He was staring at a photo, a tiny, blurry photo snapped by a reporter last night. Maya standing with the twins in her arms. The headline read, "Reclusive billionaire seen with unknown woman and children at charity gala." But he didn't care about the rumors. For the first time in his life, the story behind the photo mattered more than the numbers under his name. He picked up his phone and made a decision that startled his entire staff. "Cancel all my meetings for the next week," he ordered. "Sir?" His assistant stammered. "I said, cancel everything. There's something more important." And with that, Adrian Hale, the man who had built empires, began rebuilding something far rarer, his heart. That afternoon, he drove to the small coastal town he'd tracked Maya to. No driver, no bodyguards, no polished suit, just Adrian in a plain shirt. Unsure of what he would say. When he reached the modest white cottage by the ocean, his chest tightened. Through the window, he saw them, Maya sitting cross-legged on the floor. The twins giggling as they stacked colored blocks. He'd spent years chasing numbers. Now, for the first time, he watched love in its simplest form. Maya noticed him standing at the door. Her smile faded, replaced by shock and guarded silence. "Adrian," she said softly, opening the door halfway. He nodded. Can I come in?" She hesitated. "They're sleeping soon." "I won't stay long," he promised. After a moment, she opened the door fully. He stepped inside. The scent of sea breeze and crayons filling the air, so different from the sterile perfection of his penthouse. He knelt beside the twins' toys. "So, which one's the architect?" he asked, picking up a crooked block tower. "Luna built it." Leah giggled proudly. "It's a castle." He smiled. "Genuinely. It's perfect." Maya watched him carefully. This wasn't the same man who once pushed her away. His eyes had softened, his tone humble. Still, the pain in her chest lingered. "Why are you here, Adrian?" she asked quietly. After all this time, he looked up at her, and this time, there was no coldness in his gaze. "Because I can't undo what I said, but I can be the man you once believed I could be," he said, "and the father they deserve." Maya's breath caught. She wanted to believe him, but her heart had learned caution. People like you don't change overnight. "You're right," he admitted, "but maybe I can start with today." Over the next few weeks, he kept his word. Every morning, he'd show up with groceries, toys, or sometimes nothing, just his time. He'd sit on the porch, telling the twins stories about stars and cities, teaching them to build paper airplanes. Luna, the shy one, began to warm up first. Leah followed soon after, dragging him into games of tag around the garden. And Maya, she watched. One evening, she caught him helping the twins draw. His expensive shirt sleeves were rolled up, his hair messy, his hand covered in purple marker lines. He was laughing, a deep unguarded laugh she hadn't heard in years. For the first time, she smiled without realizing it. But the world wasn't kind to love reborn. One morning, Maya found a newspaper left at her doorstep. The headline screamed, "Hala heir and hidden family, secret children revealed." Her heart dropped. Paparazzi photos, blurry but unmistakable, of Adrian outside her house, of the twins playing in the yard. She stormed into the city, straight to Hale Tower. Adrian looked up as the door burst open. "Maya, do you have any idea what you've done?" she cried. "I kept them safe, away from your world, and now their faces are everywhere." "I didn't leak it," he said firmly. "I swear." "Maya, you think I can believe that?" Tears glistened in her eyes. "You're surrounded by cameras, deals, and people who'll use them for headlines. I told you your world isn't safe for them." Adrian moved closer, his voice breaking. "Then I'll leave that world. I'll walk away from everything. You, Maya, the girls, you're the only thing that ever made sense." She froze, shocked. "You'd walk away from your empire?" "Yes," he said without hesitation. "For once in my life, I want to build something that won't collapse when the market shifts." That night, he made it official. He stepped down from his CEO position, shocking investors and headlines alike. Adrian Hale resigns, to focus on family. Reporters swarmed him, asking why. He gave only one answer: "Because I found something worth more than money." Back in the cottage, Maya watched the broadcast with trembling hands. The twins cheered, "That's Daddy," but she couldn't stop crying when he arrived later that evening. Rain dripping from his coat, she stood waiting by the door. "You really did it," she whispered. He smiled faintly. "Told you I'd start with today." He stepped closer, inches away. The air between them hummed with memories all the nights. The words, the silence. "You hurt me, Adrian," she said, her voice shaking. "I know, and you can't fix that with grand gestures." "I'm not trying to fix it," he said softly. "I'm trying to deserve a second chance." Her eyes filled. "You're not the same man I left." "No," he said. "I'm the man who finally understands what love means." She looked at him for a long moment, then, without a word, she let him in. That night, he didn't touch her, didn't rush her. He simply sat beside her as she held their daughters, watching the rain fall together. This time, in the quiet, Maya whispered, "Maybe love isn't chaos after all." Adrian smiled faintly, his eyes on the twins sleeping in her arms. "No," he said softly, "it's home." Weeks turned into months, and the rhythm of their lives began to shift. Adrian Hale, once the name printed in gold on skyscrapers and magazines, was now simply Daddy. He spent mornings fixing breakfast, learning how to braid Leah's hair badly, and reading bedtime stories that ended with the twins giggling at his dramatic voices. Maya watched in quiet awe, part of her still waiting for the illusion to break, for him to walk away again, but he didn't, single quotes. He stayed. One evening, the twins were asleep, the house silent except for waves crashing outside. Maya stood on the porch, arms folded, the ocean wind brushing her hair. Adrian joined her, handing her a cup of tea. "You really traded the world for this," she murmured. He smiled, eyes gentle. "The world never felt this alive." Maya turned to look at him. "Why now, Adrian? Why after everything?" He stared out at the horizon. "Because losing you showed me what power really means. I spent years controlling everything, but I couldn't control what I felt when I saw you holding our daughters." Her eyes softened, but the scars of the past still whispered, "You broke me once. What if you do it again?" He took a slow breath. "Then I'll spend forever proving I won't." Silence fell between them, heavy, honest. "Do you still love me?" she asked finally. He looked at her, the moonlight catching his face, no longer cold or untouchable. "I never stopped. I just didn't know how to show it until now." Maya blinked back tears. "You said you loved, just not me." He stepped closer, his voice low. "I was wrong. I loved you most, I was just too blind to see it." Her heart broke all over again, but this time it was in the best way possible, the kind that heals. When the truth finally finds its way home. The following morning, Adrian surprised everyone again. He reopened the Hale Foundation, not as a corporate vanity project, but as a children's charity named Luna and Laya Hope Foundation. The twins' laughter filled the halls as cameras rolled, not for gossip, but for a cause that mattered. Maya stood by the entrance, watching him speak to the press. His voice was confident, but not in the way it once was. It carried warmth now. "I built towers that touched the sky," he said, "but they were empty. My daughters taught me that strength isn't about what you own, it's about who you hold close." The audience fell silent. Maya felt tears blur her vision. He wasn't doing this for show, he was doing it for them. Later that night, after the event, they drove home quietly. The twins had fallen asleep in the back seat, their tiny hands clutching his fingers. Maya whispered, "You've changed more than I ever thought you could." He smiled faintly. "Maybe love isn't chaos after all." She chuckled through her tears. "That's my line." He looked at her, the city lights flickering on his face. "Then maybe it's time I start repeating your words instead of my mistakes." Days turned to weeks, and slowly, life stitched itself back together. Adrian found peace in small moments, painting the nursery wall, carrying grocery bags, getting flour all over his shirt while baking cookies that tasted awful but made the twins laugh until they cried. For Maya, the hardest thing wasn't forgiving him, it was believing she deserved this happiness again. But every time she saw him kiss their daughters goodnight, every time he stayed up when one of them got sick, she saw proof written not in words, but in presence. He wasn't the man who once said "I love, just not you." He was the man who now lived every day proving, "I love you, only you." One rainy evening, just like the night they broke apart, Adrian led Maya outside. The twins slept inside, soft lullabies playing in their room. He handed her a small velvet box. She froze. "Adrian," he smiled nervously, "no grand gestures, no promises I can't keep, just this." He opened it, a simple silver ring, engraved with 4 small initials inside. "AMLL, for us," he said. "The family I almost lost." Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "You don't have to ask." "I'm not," he said softly. "I'm just hoping you'll say yes anyway." She laughed through her tears, nodding, "Yes." He slipped the ring onto her finger, then pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. "I love you," he whispered, voice trembling. "And this time," she said, smiling, "you said it right." They stood together under the rain, the same rain that once broke them now washing their story clean. Inside, Leah and Luna stirred, tiny smiles curling in their sleep, as if they somehow knew their parents had finally found their way home. And, as dawn broke, Adrian Hale, once the coldest man in the city, held his family close, whispering the one truth he'd learned too late but just in time. Money builds walls. Love builds forever. Sometimes, love doesn't vanish, it just waits for us to grow enough to understand it. Adrian Hale thought power could protect him, that control could keep him safe. But when he saw the woman he once pushed away holding the 2 little souls he never knew existed, he realized the only thing worth holding on to was them. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who still believes in second chances. Because love isn't about perfection, it's about the courage to change. Tell us in the comments, would you forgive someone who once broke you if they came back a completely different person? #millionaire love story. #emotional family drama. #second chance romance. #heart touching story. #redemption. Love. #father-daughter bond.